Hello, BookTube. It's Monday, and I come to you with a small book haul. I received 3 books in the post at work today, and I've had pretty good luck for the last week, couple weeks for ordering used books. These weren't considered used; they were considered new, but at almost used prices. The first is an Everyman edition of Horace Walpole's selected letters of his. It runs into about 600 pages, so it's a small fraction of his output of letters. He wrote literally thousands of letters, and he lived from basically all through from late teens of the 18th century right to the close pretty well of the 18th century. So and he's to me, I love his writing, and I love his letters, especially when he gets into talking about books and or writing or other authors. And this was just so cheap. I've been holding out for quite a while for a complete set, but I've missed it on a couple occasions because it just hasn't been the right time. The right time in the sense of having the money to buy the set. So when I saw this for $2.99, I thought I'd grab it, especially when it's saying it's new. And I looked at the bookseller, and everything they sold was new. So why not? And I'm perfectly happy with it. The next thing is one large tome, and it's 2 volumes. It's the Poems of T.S. Eliot, annotated edition. This volume runs in at just over 1,300 pages. And it was published in 2015 by Faber and Faber. It's edited by Christopher Ricks and Jim McHugh. And I've personally never seen anything like this in scholarship. There is just over 300 pages of poems. As I said, it's annotated. The rest of it is annotation. And the annotation ends, there's a bibliography, index, and so forth, but it ends at about 1,230 pages. So we're talking almost 1,000 pages, of annotation for just 306 pages of poetry. It just amazes me, and I've been perusing it a little bit at work, and it looks like they've scoured like his letters, diaries, everything, every little scrap that he spoke about that poem. And as well, there's interpretive material as well. So it's everything. It's just a massive and an amazing bit of scholarship. It reminds me of, and it's on the scale of not the annotated part, but the old English poems book that I forget what University Press put out. But I should show that sometime. I've taken photos of it and put it up on Instagram. But it's a massive volume of all old English poems and fragments, and it's an amazing bit of scholarship itself. But this with the annotations is it's amazing. The second volume is much shorter, as you can see. It is the Practical Cats and further verses, Christopher Ricks and Jim McHugh as well. 2015, Faber and Faber. The cover price of these were £40 each. I found a seller that was selling them for just under £20 with shipping. So I thought I'd snap them up because I even used, I'm not going to find them any much cheaper than that, or at least not in good shape. And these are brand new. There's a bit of a ding at the top of this one, but that's fine. Yeah, this is Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats. There's like less than 40 pages of poetry, and then the rest of it, which is about 550 pages of annotation. Again, it goes through everything, and I just dearly love the Book of Practical Cats, and I go back to it and read it every so often. It's just, I know a lot of people make fun of it, and I think a lot of the fun that comes from it that they find is from Andrew Lloyd Webber's musical. And apparently there was a film sometime recently that just, yeah. Forget about those. Just go back to the poetry. And like the first poem here is just amazing. The naming of cats. The naming of cats is a difficult matter. It isn't just one of your holiday games. You may think at first I'm as mad as a hatter when I tell you a cat must have 3 different names. First of all, there's the name that the family use daily, such as Peter, Augustus, Alonzo, and James, such as Victor or Jonathan, George or Bill Bailey, all of them sensible everyday names. There are fancier names if you think they sound sweeter, some for the gentlemen, some for the dames, such as Plato, Admetus, Electra, Demeter, but all of them sensible everyday names. But I tell you, a cat needs a name that's particular, a name that's peculiar and more dignified. Else how can he keep up his tail perpendicular? Or spread out his whiskers, or cherish his pride? Of names of this kind I can give you a quorum, such as Monkstrap, Quaxo, or Coricopat, such as Bombalurnia, or else Gelilorium. Names that never belonged to more than one cat. But above and beyond, there's still one name left over. And that is the name you will never guess. The name that no human research can discover, but the cat himself knows, and will never confess. When you notice a cat is in profound meditation, the reason, I tell you, is always the same. His mind is engaged in rapt contemplation of the thought of his name. He is ineffable, effable, effin ineffable, deep and inscrutable singular name. And as I say, it's just a small little collection. It's 30-some pages long. They're just fabulous. There's Macavity, the mystery cat, which it's. I was bringing in the Sherlock Holmes stories with some books that I showed the other day there, because the editors sort of had Musgrave, and there was another name, I can't remember what it was, but the Macavity is Moriarty. He's the mystery cat. And it's just, yeah, I just love these. So I'm gonna just spend, lots of time reading the poems and going through the annotations, especially in this volume. I've read other T.S. Eliot poems. Some of them I like, and I will spend a lot of time with these volumes. And the other thing that I have of T.S. Eliot, I have some of his slim volumes of criticism and a few essays. But Faber and Faber have been putting out a collection of his letters. And Volume 9 is coming out later this year, I think October. And it's up to, I think, 39 to 1940. And that's Volume 9. And these aren't slim volumes. They're like 800, 900, almost 1,000 pages long. So he died in 1964, 65. So we're talking, unless he, greatly reduces the number of letters he wrote, we're talking upwards of 20 volumes by the time we're done of his letters. I've got 4 here. The first 4 volumes. I've ordered the 5th volume because I found that cheap, so I wait till they drop in price to buy them. Here's volume 1. And as you can see, it's a massive tome. It's about 900 pages, just under 900. It's the revised edition, edited by Valerie Elliott and Hugh Houghton. This one came out 2009 originally. Sorry, I guess originally 1988, and then the revised edition 2009. Now, it's volume 1, and it comprises letters from 1898 to 1922. Volume 2 goes 1923 to 1925, so you're seeing a condensing of years. However, the number of pages do not change. It's just the frequency of letters. And this one, as I say, is volume 2, 23 to 25, and that was published in 2009 as well. And then they went to different paper, and the books are maybe a bit heavier. Volume 3 has the same number of pages, but it's not quite as thick. And it is 1926 to 27. So we're talking 2 years with over 900 pages of letters. And there's inserts, black and white photos inserts. This one came out in 2012. And volume 4 is 1928 to 1929. And that one came out 2000. Is it 13 or 15? I'm having difficulty. I'm sorry, I'm having difficulty. It almost looks like 2013, but then it looks like 2015. One or the other. Yeah, and again, it's the different paper. This one's just over 800 pages. I have barely made a dent in reading these. I have only picked them up occasionally and read bits and pieces, but they're fascinating. I don't know if I'll ever read them all the way through, but I will definitely be using them for with the indexes and leaf it through and reading bits and pieces, and especially when I read the poems and they're referring to a letter, I might actually then go and read the whole letter. That'll be actually quite nice for this. But yeah, the volume 5 is on its way. I thought I'd do this video because I've been showing mostly antiquarian material, so I don't just have antiquarian material. I do like newer material as well. I just sometimes don't like the prices, but these are averaging. These are £40. I think the new volume coming out is £60. And I think they've been going from like 30, then they went up to 40, then 50, and then 60. But I bought 3 of these as remainders for £10 each, which I thought was a good price. I'm more than happy to pay that because they're new. And I think I paid £12 for volume 4, and I've paid probably close to 15, I think, for volume 5. With shipping when it's coming. But yeah, it's if anybody, I'd love to hear other people who like T.S. Eliot. I believe Mark Richardson at Richardson Reads showed one of the volumes of the letters on one of his bookshelf tours. And I also wondered, Steve Donahue had said that he never really liked T.S. Eliot, but he said, I think he got the 2 annotated volumes, and he was going to revisit T.S. Eliot last year. I must have missed it, but I don't remember his final decision of whether he now likes him or still dislikes him. I don't think, regardless of whether you like him or dislike him, you cannot, say that he's very important. He's an important figure, in not just in poetry, but in publishing, in British publishing, for the first half, definitely the first half of the 20th century. It's just an important figure and very influential figure. And his Wasteland poems definitely had huge influence on people and writers. So that can't be denied, whether you like him or not. You can say they're misdirected, possibly, but I don't like everything he's done. There's some poetry that I have read that I haven't really warmed to. I'm not sure yet. I haven't made a final decision on his Wasteland poetry, but this collection should help with that. But I do know I like his Possum's Books of Practical Cats. It's just they're fun poems, and and at times that's all I want is just fun poems, and it's just such a great annotated edition. The only other one that comes close to this that I can think of, excuse me, I'm gonna get up close to the camera here, is Collected Poems of Dylan Thomas. This is Weidenfeld and Nicholson. It was put out in 2014, edited and annotated by John Goodby. But you see the annotation as well. There is, trying to see here, 212 pages approximately of poems, and then there is 200 plus pages of annotation. So not quite, and I thought this was actually quite substantial in that way. But again, like, the reason why I bring up the Dylan Thomas is because I love the T.S. Eliot's Practical Cats, Possum's Book of Practical Cats. And as I say, I like it for the fun, the language, and the way it's just so lyrical. And a lot of Dylan Thomas as well. And so just the language that he uses, it's just beautiful. And sometimes I want something that's just beautiful, and it sounds and just rolls off the tongue nicely, rather than something that is deep and meaningful. Sometimes I need anyway in life both. It's like I'll read Proust, I'll read Rabelais, and they're some of my favorite books. But then every so often I need to read something like P.G. Wodehouse, that's frivolous. It's not deep. It's very well written, or Rumpole even, like, something more recent, or even mysteries, crime fiction. I sometimes I need a little bit of each. It's the same as reading history. If I dig deep into history and nonfiction, sometimes I just have to get out of that, because sometimes it's just too much of a cobweb, especially the academic world and the academic mind, that I need something to crawl out of that with. And it is something like a crime novel, or I used to use the P.G. Wodehouse for that, but I've read most of that, or all of it, several times, so I've left it for a few years now. But I now go to other things like crime novels to just sort of burn through every so often. But anyway, I'm prattling on as I usually do. That's Monday. That's my little mini mail haul plus. And if anybody else likes T.S. Eliot, I'd love to hear, or other poets that you like. Some of one of my favorites is John Clare. We could talk about him all day, or I could anyway. But yeah, so let's end it there, and I will try to be back tomorrow, Tuesday. Have a good evening, BookTube.